The fate of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs now likely lies in the hands of the U.S. Supreme Court. Trump is asking the court to overturn a lower court ruling that most of his tariffs imposed on countries like Canada are illegal. A lot at stake, including potentially having to pay billions in refunds. Chris Krueger, managing director at TD Cowen Washington Research Group, has just come out with a report on what the next steps might be. Chris, how are you?
I'm well. Great to be back with you, Kim.
Nice to have you back. I like to check in to see how you are because you're in the business of following every move, and I worry about you, Chris. I want to make sure you're okay.
It's very kind, Kim. Thank you.
Let's talk about the tariffs. Lower court has said these are illegal, and now we go through the process to get it through to the Supreme Court. What are the possible scenarios that could come out of this? What are you looking at?
Yeah, well, so the International Court said that IEEPA tariffs were illegal. The appellate court in a 7-4 decision upheld that. So we're now waiting for the Supreme Court to weigh in. Supreme Court is 9 justices. It breaks down 6-3 in terms of Republican to Democratic appointees. Big picture. Tariffs will remain. The issue is the type of tariff, the statute involved. IEEPA has never been used for tariffs before. The term tariff is not in that statute. The administration is preparing a Plan B with Section 338 that gives them the ability to tariff up to 50%. The issue here, which you correctly addressed up front, was the potential for refunds. This would really punch a hole in the Treasury. One of the more surreal twists of the year has been that the bond market vigilantes are now very much in favor of tariffs. So there's a concern within the bond market that if the IEEPA tariffs have to be refunded, yields will spike, stocks might sell off because you do punch a hole in the Treasury at least $100 billion. We'll see what the Supreme Court comes up with. Our expectation is that they will take the case. It may be until next summer, though, Kim.
That's the surprising thing I saw in your note was that how long it will take them to hear arguments and make a decision. So, you kind of wonder what the bond market and everyone else is going to do in the meantime.
Well, and each month that tariff revenue really increases. If we have to wait until next summer, that refund check may not be in the billions. It might have a T in front of it.
Can I ask, the one thing you said that was interesting, that you said that the tariffs will remain if, despite the decision from your perspective, but the statute to which they're attached to may change. But is it also for lack of a better word, the height of the tariffs? I mean, the amount that could be tariffed through IEEPA was, I thought, much higher than in other ways.
Right now, the cap is both Brazil and India have 50% tariffs. Section 338 from the Tariff Act of 1930, which is Smoot-Hawley, has a ceiling of 50. In particular, for listeners in Canada, too, the Section 232 tariffs are not being litigated, so those stay regardless. And that is a disproportionate impact on Canada. That's 50% steel, aluminum, copper, and then the 25% on autos and auto parts. That is not being litigated, and those stay regardless.
Talk to me a bit about the transshipment tariffs, and just you have a piece here talking about the new definition and rules of origin with regards to Chinese content. What are you referring to there?
Right. So, broadly speaking, and within the USMCA renegotiation, this was going to be an issue if Kamala Harris had won. This is a big bipartisan issue. Candidly, it's more of a Mexico issue than a Canada or U.S. issue. But transshipment, it's a legal term. It's basically moving goods through a country, maybe changing that product a little bit, and saying it's, assembled in Mexico or assembled in Canada, when in reality that product is Chinese in nature. Transshipment is used to evade tariffs. So part of those Liberation Day tariffs, really the new one that jumped out at us was this idea of a transshipment tariff. This would be 40%. It's stacking, so it's on top of existing tariffs. And the idea is essentially, if you as an importer exporter, if you are found in violation of the transshipment rules, that product will have an additional 40%. There's some thought that within the broader USMCA renegotiation, a way to effectively end transshipment would be for Canada and Mexico to match U.S. tariffs on China. Canada actually did this last summer when then President Biden issued a number of tariffs on Chinese EVs. So there is precedence for it. It would be sort of an elegant solution. And the end game, I think, would be pretty positive for the entire continent. It's sort of this idea of a factory North America, a fortress North America, granted with high tariff walls against China, but within the continent, it could have some really interesting, sort of a manufacturing renaissance, if you will.
Yeah, it really would. It would make a huge difference to Canada and Mexico, too. Let me ask you, I've only got about 45 seconds, Chris, but when you think about USMCA as we're going forward, what are you expecting to have happen based on what you know today?
There will be renegotiation. I'm not sure there's ever going to be a big bow attached to a trade deal, and then we can all just sort of get a good night's sleep. I think it's going to be, it's going to take a long time. There also might be very incremental. If you look at South Korea, they had a free trade agreement with Chorus, but then they've also done a reciprocal deal. So I think they'll probably start with some of the 232 relief, and then we'll go on to some of the trickier issues like rules of origin, labor, dairy, transshipment, and others.